I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice is lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. Okay, here we go, guys. This one's heavy, but I think we can get through it. 510-180. Found myself in an uncomfortable situation with my wife, her boss/friend. Some background. We have 3 kids. We're 32. I got her pregnant at the end of our freshman year of college. And fortunately, everything's worked out since. All right. We're generally happy with our lives, make decent money. And I'm not even going to say where they live. As you might imagine, we both struggle with the loss of our youth, spending our 20s changing diapers and losing sleep over fussy children rather than partying and traveling. We've worked really hard to get where we are at now. My wife struggled with school and really should have gotten into a trade, but her parents are dicks, and she was pretty so despite her love of manual labor, she was forced into a private school education and in college. I don't understand the pretty part of this. And whatever. Okay. All right. So she spent the first 12 years of our marriage at home with the kids, doing school when she could and supporting me as I got degrees and worked my ass off to make money. During COVID, while my job easily translated to working at home, she formed a relationship with a local contractor painter and began working for him. She's smart, attractive, and competent. So she's been very valuable over the past year in the business, helping it grow. And she's also got out of the house doing the work she loves. She's also grown close to her boss, a 40-ish dude who's married to a Brazilian bombshell, though he's a dumpy alcoholic, sure, white dude. Okay. A lot of stuff there. He has no kids, but over the past year, he's become a great friend to her as they run the business, along with being my friend and a great quasi-uncle to our kids. My wife's always gotten along with better with guys than women. She has strong female friends, but I've made peace with the fact that she forms close relationships with dudes. Unfortunately, her relationship with her boss took a turn when both of them, drunk at a bar, had a questionable moment. She was super comfortable with him and felt it was okay to do an up and down touch and feel with her breasts, which are quite uneven. It's actually science. That does happen. Just so he could realize their unevenness. I've never cared about their lack of congruity. They're not dramatically uneven. Okay. But she has large breasts, and despite the damage that 3 breastfed kids did to them. All right. All checks out. I got home from a men's basketball game where I rolled my ankle and she sat me down and told me. We're very honest with each other. And I can't express, given how much we've been through, that I believe it was her trying to be one of the guys just fucking around. Look, I'm not ending my marriage over this. It's just frustrating. I see the big picture of the situation because this guy has no kids. And she could take over his business someday. We have a special needs child who's 5, and I see him working with his mom one day painting because that might be all he can do. All right. I don't know if that's true, but I get your point here. She's upset knowing she crossed the line. She's always upfront about her and her boss's relationships with me. They go on networking lunches a lot, and I'm okay with it because she spent so much time with the kids. I'm happy she's getting out in the world. The problem is that she's somewhat sheltered, given that we spent our time in our 20s, right? And now she's learning about going out and that stuff. I'm frustrated because I love the situation for her and down the line for our son, but I'm mad at her and her boss, who I consider a friend, that they thought this was okay. I understand it wasn't sexual, but no dude should be touching my wife's breast, regardless of how interesting the juxtaposition is. I'm not sure how to feel about this. I honestly want to keep her working with him because it's good for her, on and on and on. It's an awkward situation. Okay. Yeah, look, I think on the realm of, if we had a sliding scale of stuff that could be happening, and the cheating part of it is the straight up, hey, married and an affair, hotel rooms, maybe even a weekend together, lies and lies and lies, that could ruin a family and forever damage the relationship. Or somehow people get through that. Some of you have, some of you haven't. Who knows? I can't imagine the guilt part if I was going to try to pull something like that off. Or you just go, hey, the love is, it's a void, and now I'm doing what I need to do to survive. Or maybe your wife's doing it to you because that's just the instinct of it all, right? All right. A lot of factors. You luckily have none of that happening. When I try to think of like all the times if I were married, which obviously I spend a great deal of time examining, but if I were to think back of like what could happen where you'd be like, all right, this is acceptable, like Castaway. I think Helen Hunt making out with Tom Hanks in the garage before he gets his Jeep back, like that one's acceptable. Like if my wife were going to marry a guy that landed, his plane crashed and he ended up on a deserted island for years, and then he magically made it back on a raft, and then she made out with him real quick in the garage, I think I'd be able to process that one. So that's the Castaway. In this case, I think the problem is that it's great that your wife is this honest and you've rationalized it for her. You know, you've thought it all out, which is really admirable, and you don't seem like raging upset. You're just upset about the situation. I think the fact is the guy here doesn't have any respect for you. You may think he does, or maybe you do get along. I mean, you've mentioned that you get along here, but he this is what I know about, like, and this is male or female, by the way. But you'll kind of like see what you can get away with, right? And you'll test it. You know, those guys that I'll know, and I can just tell like what they're doing, and they're like throwing something out there to see what kind of reaction they get. And so, if this guy's a drunk and he's just kind of getting after it, and your wife is really attractive, and they're together all the time, it's not great that she put herself in this situation. But at the same time, the fact the guy was more than down for, you know, I guess we're saying an unsupervised examination here, that it's, this is a guess, but I wonder if this is a guy being like, let me see how far I can go with this, and then maybe I'm planting the seed for something else down the road. So I would have a major problem with my wife going back to work for this guy. If we're talking about painting and local contracting stuff, she could go ahead, make a business card, and get out there and do this on her own, and probably a very short amount of time. You know, that's what advertising's for. And it might end up being a great move for her to go ahead and start to do this on her own. And you can get her away from this guy. I mean, if he is all of these things that you said he is, describing him this way, then I would think long term, I wouldn't want my wife hanging out with this kind of guy in the first place, especially if he, like, I don't know if you talk to this guy about it. Like, my sense is it's this guy, if your wife is that attractive, is like, hey, this is kind of cool. And then, you know, now we'll see where this goes, even if your wife is sort of horrified that she did it. And just to even have some element of that going on, I wouldn't be able to deal with that. It doesn't sound like you would either. And I'd be curious what would happen. It's like, hey, I'd prefer if you weren't actually like working with that guy, or if you're only working with him, not going out and doing that. But it isn't the end of the world. Or, you know, maybe some people will process it differently and say, hey, it's actually not that big of a deal if everybody knows each other. I don't know. I don't know that I would go there with it. But the fact that he would do it, I think, is maybe more problematic than your wife doing this. Kyle, you got anything for us on this one?
Yeah, a few things. I think this guy has a good sense of humor about it. I liked all his descriptor words about congruencies and stuff like that. I think that really like had a little levity to the situation. But it's definitely like, in a perfect world, free the nipple, but I know it's not a perfect world. So I guess what I'm saying is like, women, like, with their friends will do that. It's not like guys, like, it's like, it'd be weird if like guys were like showing their balls to each other, but like women like do that to their friends. And maybe this was like a situation of like, you know, forgot where we were and who we were, but I'm just like friends with you and we're drunk. And then maybe everybody kind of came back to reality. And I think you're right. The guy sort of is doing the see what he can get away with stuff. So for the husband, just kind of remember, like, a reality check to you, like, oh man, everybody doesn't care about how you feel. Like, so I think it's like a little bit of everything, but like you said, I think it's not the end of the world. It's a little uncomfortable. But I mean, like you said, like the guy said, like, I don't think you can say, I don't want to have her working there, because you really can't have her working, whatever. So I think you just got to kind of let her decide how she wants to move forward. And if she wants to start her own business and have overhead for painting, yeah, fine. But if not, like, you know, just remember that that guy isn't your friend. He's really only her coworker, and he only cares about himself. But it's not the end of the world.
You got painting overhead in there too, which I'm impressed by.
Yeah, you need a truck and you need paint, right, and stuff.
Yeah, but overhead for painting is way cheaper than overhead for other stuff, manual labor. I mean, talking, you know, air guns, roofing, framing. You got to have
That's
a
fair.
completely different setup. Finish carpentry, flooring. You know, we're talking a lot of different systems.
Oh, if she drives a sedan, though, that's just another couple $1,000s you're going to have to work around.
I have an important meeting here in just a matter of minutes, so I'm going to do one more that we got a lot of here. So I'm sorry this isn't the longest life advice we've ever done. The number of people that have written in to defend the CrossFit pull-up. Look, it's just easier, man. It's just easier. Good for you. You know what I always say about it? Anybody that's out there doing it, that's great. but like we had a Will Kane Hasselbeck pull-up thing. And I remember sitting there in disbelief being like, wait, you said you could do 30 pull-ups? He's like, yeah, I can do 30 pull-ups. I'm like, you can just do 30 straight pull-ups. He's like, well, no, the what is it? The Kipling, I think. I don't know. And I was like, okay, well then, like, that's not.
Yeah, if you have to make the caveat, then you can't do it. Period.
Because there's almost right. There's not. I don't know that there's any guys just walking down the street that could do 30 pull-ups, 30 normal pull-ups, unless you're just a freak gymnast guy who like somehow specializes in pull-ups.
Yeah, like Jeremy Scott could do 30 pull-ups.
I don't know if he could do 30 pull-ups.
You think so?
Because he's pretty big. 30 pull-ups is a ton of pull-ups. I don't think you're giving pull-ups enough respect, but
maybe not. But I think I'm giving Jeremy the proper respect. I don't know.
I just don't understand. Right, I don't understand why you would care that much. Like it's kind of like the whole soccer thing. It's like it's not soccer; it's soccer guys. So I'm just telling you, like, I get that this movement is an actual exercise. It's just not the same. Okay, it's like the sumo deadlift person, legs as far apart as possible, cross grip, and then it's like, hey, look at my new personal record deadlifting. Or some of the guys that do these bench things that I still can't believe. You're like, what was that rep? Like that went like 4 inches. What was that? And you're like, oh, crush it, 315 again. And you're like, well, then these are different things. And I don't know why we have to pretend they're not different things. And I just think the push-ups, or the pull-ups, I didn't know. Yeah, we had the guy saying the CrossFit push-up, and I was totally lost at that one. So I guess it's just my final statement on the pull-up thing. I don't know why it's being argued. The fact that you're out there doing it, whatever exercise it is, that's great. You deserve all the credit in the world. I'm just not going to. Don't tell random people you can do 30 pull-ups, because you can't do it the way most of us have processed pull-ups unless you get one of those certificates. Yeah, go ahead.
Do non-wide grip regular pull-ups count to you?
Yeah, wide grip, because it's even harder.
Non-wide grip.
Oh.
I'm saying close grip.
What do you mean, like turn?
Yeah, well, around, I don't know,
yes.
Turn, not turned. I would be devastated if you said they didn't count. Thank you.
Here's what I would also ask: how many times do you guys have to update your personal number on a pull-up just in your everyday life? Does it happen much?
It's been a while.
Exactly. Maybe since like junior high certificate.
That was a big deal, though. I remembered all my stats from junior high, like the mile, all that stuff, the pull-ups and sit-ups.
What was your
always
best
had
pull-up?
my stats ready for anyone to ask me about it. My mile was like 5:45. I was fast. What's up?
I am fast.
Well, I was fast.
Last week I outran a black pepper snake. Okay, that'll do it again. LifeAdviceRR@gmail. Make sure you subscribe. And coming up later this week, we're going to have Booger McFarland. We'll do some college and NFL, and then Scott Hansen, Red Zone style. So a lot of football as we gear up for the first real week of college ball. And then, of course, going into next week, we're back to 3 podcasts and pretty NFL heavy. So let's get it.